the current events through a psychological prism, and so many things have happened. So I'm going to run through. Intrepid producer Frank Ladd is a much more newsy person than I am. So I'm going to run through a couple of things, and then you tell me what I have missed, what I've left out, okay?
There's no way.
Well,
There's no way you're going to get to them all.
Okay, just hang on. So,
we only have an hour.
Right. So the transgender ban was the first thing. And then John McCain voting the final vote to kill the health care bill.
Well, that was after the final vote to bring the health care bill to a vote.
Yeah, okay, right.
And then turning and voting the other. So there was two votes, big votes there by McCain.
That's good distinction.
Yeah.
So then Scaramucci's wife files for divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Priebus is out. John Kelly is in.
Mm-hmm.
Today, Donald Trump, you had just told me this, is very prolific on Twitter, talking about the health care bill isn't dead and trying to shame Republicans and China and everybody else in the world into doing everything that he wants exactly the way that he wants it done.
Yes.
Okay. So what's left out of there?
The Scaramucci rant to the New Yorker about Reince Priebus.
Absolutely.
He calls the reporter up.
Oh my gosh. And uses language that I would be embarrassed for my daughter to actually hear.
Yeah. Or read.
So, oh my gosh. So, yeah, it's just been a crazy week. And obviously you are correct. We're not going to get to all of that. And actually tonight, in just a little bit, we are going to talk about something that is an important issue for me because I actually deal with this on a regular basis, and that's the issue of parental alienation. So a lot of times when there is a divorce and a custody hearing, there is this idea of parental alienation with the children used as weapons, blunt objects against for each of the partners against each other. So we're going to talk about what that is, and we're going to talk about what happens when that becomes chronically pathologic. And if you have an experience with that or you have a question about that, then you can get on the phone and call us, area code 314-969-9797, 866-455-9797. But the first thing I want to do is a self-disclosure. So I was very quiet before the show started. You even commented, did I need anything? You were going to sit quietly and read because I was being very quiet. The reason
I was just, trying to be polite.
Yes, I know.
I figured you were over there reading.
No, I was actually trying to not talk to you.
Okay.
Because I was going to tell you this story, and I didn't want to tell you the story before we started the show because I wanted to save it. I wanted to get your initial reaction.
Okay.
So yesterday, let me just caveat this by saying, I really try and be very clear about what I do compared to what other people on the station do. So there are a lot of people, and we're not going to name names, but there are a lot of people who tell you what their opinions are as if those are factual, objective things that they are telling you and that you can believe. I try and present information, and my encouragement is for everybody to get good information, accurate information from both sides of a topic and analyze that information and make an informed decision for themselves. So yesterday on the DGS, I am coming in and I'm going to talk about the transgender ban. Now, this is, so we've decided that this is what we're going to talk about on Wednesday, right, when the transgender ban issue comes up. Mm-hmm. By Friday, 35 other things have happened, and they're all over the place talking about stuff. But I'm coming in to talk about the transgender ban. So I had done a ton of research, and I come in and I am laying all these numbers out, and I can tell that this is going over like a Led Zeppelin. So I'm going to try and really hammer my point home by talking about my sources. So I start talking about how this Vicky Hartzler, who is a Republican from the state of Missouri, mm-hmm. who is one of the most ardent proponents of transgenders out of the military, a ban on transgenders in the military, is testifying before Congress and giving all kinds of numbers that then Donald Trump actually quoted in his tweet about why we are going to ban transgenders because of the prohibitive cost issue. Mm-hmm. And so I'm talking about this, and I am saying, and this was quoted in the Washington Free Bacon.
Free bacon?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So and so Dave says, "Is that a real paper?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think so," because I looked it up and I couldn't find. Now, for whatever reason, I just had this in my head. I couldn't get it out of my head, and I just kept on repeating it.
Bacon.
The free bacon, yes.
The free bacon.
Yes. And so my Jimmy, who is an ardent, prolific tweeter for the DGS, promptly pointed out to me that she also quoted the New England, the Wall Street Gerbil. Yeah. So finally, Tony says to me, "Do you mean the Washington Free Beacon? Because I've heard of that." And I'm like, "Oh, yes, of course. Why couldn't somebody just correct me?" And so now I believe that Dave loves it when I'm on the hot seat. I think he really enjoys that.
Sure.
So
of course he does.
I'm like, "Oh, why couldn't you just say something?" And he said, and at one of the breaks, he says, "I think you're a pretty smart guy, and you were really selling it. So I thought it was a real thing."
Exactly.
I'm like, okay.
You seriously, walk into any place with confidence, say something with confidence, people aren't going to doubt you.
Yeah. Well,
if you don't know how to pronounce a name and you can't get around not saying it, but you say it like you know it, everybody's going to think you said it right.
That's
the
true.
Washington Free Bacon.
The Washington Free Bacon.
Just move on.
And I rode that horse until it was
you rode
dead.
that pig.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes, I did. But what I want to start off today is actually going through a little bit of this because I do want people to have good information. And so I put a bunch of stuff up on the Facebook page, so at Psych With Mike on Facebook, and tweeted it out at Psych With Mike on Twitter. And what I had put up today was on the transgendered issue. I put up an article that actually quotes the information that Vicki Hartzler had actually put out in front of Congress. And then I also put up a Slate article from a guy named Ehrenfeld, who is a doctor. He's a commander in the Naval Reserve, but served in the Navy and was one of the most ardent supporters of a admission of transgendered individuals into the military. And then I also put up an article or a link to a health cost helper website that actually lists a lot of information about the true and real costs of transgendered surgery for individuals who want to go that route. One of the things that I want to say up front is that I have had clients who are trans. I've had clients who, and I want to say that the idea of being trans and transitioning is as unique as the individual. So for some people, transitioning means changing your name and doing that legally and having other people respect it. For some people, transitioning means having reassignment surgery and being able to do that and live fully in another body, and everywhere in between. And so the idea that every single person who is transgendered is going to demand to have reassignment surgery is ridiculous. That just isn't the case. But I have had clients who have wanted to be recognized in their schools as a different gender. And I've also had clients who actually wanted to have gender reassignment surgery. And so I've explored this issue and actually called places to get real numbers to be able to report to these clients. So I've had some experience with this. And the first thing that I want to say is that you just don't walk into a hospital and say, "I want gender reassignment surgery." right? There are specialized care centers around the country that do this. There's a limited number of them. And so if you want to investigate this, you look up gender reassignment surgery. What you're going to find out is you can't just walk into a hospital in St. Louis and say, I want gender reassignment surgery. You have to go to one of these special care facilities to be able to get this surgery. And one of the things that I found really, really interesting when I was doing this research over the week was that according to a RAND study that was commissioned by the Department of Defense and was later reported in the New England Journal of Medicine, that there are about, right now, if you think about how many individuals are in the military, that if you figure on a statistical analysis of the number of individuals who would actually want to transition, you'd have about 188 individuals who would want to transition based on the current military numbers. If you figure on real term dollars, the amount of money that it would cost for these individuals to transition, it would cost the government about $49,632 per year. And over the course of 10 years, because that $1.3 billion that Vicki Hartzler was reporting was over 10 years. Over 10 years, that's $490,632. That comes out to 22 cents a month per individual. So that's real numbers from the RAND Institute and the New England Journal of Medicine that we're talking about when we are talking individuals who might legitimately want to transition in the military. Now, if you want to actually know what the military says about transgendered individuals, that actually comes from two separate documents. The first one is the DoD instruction, which is 1300.28. It's dated 30 June, 2016. And that is the military's instruction about how transgenders are to be treated. And basically what that says is that anybody in the military who has a medical diagnosis of transgendered and it is medically recommended by an outside doctor that they go through some form of treatment, then the military will support that. Now, that treatment could be that they want to change their name. That treatment could be that they want hormone replacement therapy, or it could be that they want gender reassignment surgery. If in the case of they want gender reassignment surgery, then the military will accommodate that, but it cannot interfere with the individual's course of duty. So if they're on active patrol, they can't just decide, oh, I want gender reassignment surgery. They have to actually do that in a way in which the military can take them out of their current job for however long their recovery process would be. And then during that time, they get other duty assigned to them that is commensurate with their physical ability. So the military has actually developed a pretty extensive protocol surrounding the topic of transgender and the treatment of transgendered individuals. And one of the things that I was able to find in my research is that President Trump can't actually just say we are no longer going to have transgendered individuals in the military. That has to go through the military chain of command. Now, he is the boss. He can tell the Joint Chiefs of Staff, start working on this, but until the military changes the rule exists until the rule is changed. So they can't just take these things out of the military rule book and replace them with nothing. There have to be new rules written. So Donald Trump, the president, can't just say in a tweet, well, now it's banned, and so tomorrow that means that individuals who are transgendered can't serve in the military. So that's some of the information that I was able to find on my search across the week. And all of that information is up on the website. So I want people to be able to access that and look at it and make your own informed opinion. If you support the ban of transgendered in the military, that's okay. I'm not telling you you shouldn't, but I want people to be able to do that based on accurate information. And the $1.3 billion that was reported, that's just not accurate information. So if you're going to make that decision based on real numbers that are in the real world. So the average cost of a surgical procedure that actually reassigns an individual's gender is somewhere, it can range from $15,000 to $50,000 depending on the extent to which the individual wants that work done. So some individuals just want genitalia redone. Some individuals want a complete body makeover. So that's about the range, is $15,000 to $50,000. The numbers that were reported by Vicki Hertzler were $132,000. So that clearly is much over what is reported as the national average. So let's talk to Paul real quick before we go to our first break. Hello, Paul. How are you?
Great. How are you? I love your program.
Oh, thank you.
Here's my concern, and I don't agree with it at all. Mm-hmm. But if it does go through where they are able to, are we going to have to foot the bill? Because in any other job, if you have something like this done, you do not get paid.
Paid for your time off?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you have vacation. But, I mean, if somebody's in the military, they're getting a check.
Right.
Every month from the taxpayers.
So,
if they're,
go ahead.
Are they going to get paid during this time? Are we going to have to pay for the surgeries? I mean, we should not have to foot that bill.
So, thank you, Paul, for your comment. We'll talk about that. So the way that it would work is that just like anybody else who is in the private in civilian life, you have insurance. Your insurance may or may not pay for these surgeries. So some insurances will pay. Most insurances will not pay because this is elective surgery. So you have to have a very, very high dollar insurance plan. And sometimes that will actually pay for gender reassignment surgery. My understanding from the research that I've done is that the military insurance would pay for gender reassignment surgery if it were deemed to be medically necessary by a doctor outside of the military. Yes.
Do you by chance know percentage? How much would they pay? I'm going to assume here that you, as the individual wanting the surgery, are going to pay something as well.
Well, so all of us would have, in our insurance plans, we would have a copay. So the insurance company would pay anywhere from 50 to 80% of the surgical procedure, and then we would pay some part of that. And then there might also be a deductible. So you might have to reach a deductible before your insurance actually kicked in. That's the way that most insurance plans work. So TRICARE, which is military insurance, I don't know how much of that they pay, or if somebody actually knows, somebody might be able to call in and tell us. I don't know how much of that the military would pay, but they would pay for the surgery under the current rules of in the military.
It's interesting thing there. We had a little bit of this on the Randy Tobler show this morning, and we learned that in the case of, and this is different, but it may lead. It may draw the conversation down the road. In the case of some cosmetic procedures, mm-hmm. The government would pay for the actual surgery part, but you would have to provide the supplies. You would actually so I'm sure it's not 100% coverage.
Oh, I'm absolutely sure it's not 100%. But what part of it is, I don't know off the top of my head. Okay, we got to run to our first break. So when we come back, we're going to talk about parental alienation syndrome. Join us on the other side of the break. Be right back.
Talk lines are open now. 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. Follow Mike on Twitter at Psych With Mike.
Dependable weather.
Clouds take control today. Chance of a couple of spotty
with Fox 2 meteorologist Dave Murray.
Brought to you by Air Comfort Service with 0% financing and double utility rebates on new HVAC systems. For details, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram buyers. Royal Gate Ellisville is out to crush the competition because we are the driving force. With summer clearance event deals on new cars nobody else will even or ever offer. Unheard of trade-in money, regardless of your trade's condition or how much you still owe on it. And credit approval that makes all the deals work because it's guaranteed. Now's the time to buy. Shop RoyalGateCars.com and see for yourself why we're #1 for all the right reasons. Jeep and Ram, our inventory, expertise, price, and satisfaction stand alone. Chrysler and Dodge, we can't be beat. You'll always get the best every day, every time. Come shop Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Manchester Road in Ellisville, or online at RoyalGateCars.com and experience why we're #1 for all the right reasons.
Royal Gate, the driving force.
With approved credit, negative equity added to new contract, minimum reported income of $1,500 per month.
Visit Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram online at RoyalGateCars.com or stop into one of their 2 locations in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych With Mike and get the Royal Package at no charge.
Honey, it's time to leave for the game. Are you still in the basement? We're going to be late.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to clean up the water from last night's rain. These cracks in the basement walls aren't getting any better.
I told you to call Midwest Basement Tech. They fixed our neighbor's basement and it's been dry ever since. And Midwest Basement Tech even guarantees it.
Don't miss another second of your favorite game because of basement or crawl space problems. Call Midwest Basement Tech at 1-800-848-9805 or visit us on the web at MidwestBasementTech.com for money-saving coupons. You don't have to live with leaks, cracks, and mold in your basement. We work year-round and our estimates are free. Does your home's foundation have bowed or cracked walls? This could be a sign of foundation failure. Call now for a free expert analysis of your home's foundation problems. Serving both sides of the river, call us at 800-848-9805 for your local service tech or on the web at MidwestBasementTech.com.
Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram buyers. Royal Gate Columbia is out to crush the competition because we are the driving force. With summer clearance event deals on new cars nobody else will even or ever offer. Unheard of trade-in money, regardless of your trade's condition or how much you still owe on it. And credit approval that makes all the deals work because it's guaranteed. Now's the time to buy. Shop RoyalGateCars.com and see for yourself why we're #1 for all the right reasons. Jeep and Ram, our inventory, expertise, price, and satisfaction stand alone. Chrysler and Dodge, we can't be beat. You'll always get the best every day, every time. Come shop Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, 500 Admiral Wino Boulevard in Columbia, or online at RoyalGateCars.com and experience why we're #1 for all the right reasons.
Royal Gate, the driving force.
With approved credit, negative equity added to new contract, minimum reported income of $1,500 per month.
Visit Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram online at RoyalGateCars.com or stop into one of their 2 locations in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych With Mike and get the Royal Package at no charge.
Remember President Clinton called Obamacare the craziest
thing in the world.
We know that ACA is not perfect.
The beginning of the end for the disaster.
Turn back.
Known as Obamacare.
We want to work with you.
The American Health Care Act.
I will not vote for this bill.
Is it a better name?
To repeal and replace
the American Death Act.
What happens next?
We can move one step closer.
Happens here.
Obamacare.
FM News Talk 97.1.
Talk lines are open now, 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. Now, more Psych with Mike on FM News Talk 97.1.
Welcome back into the Royal Gate Dodge Studios. We are going to change gears. So that was a good discussion, but we're going to change gears and talk about something that I've seen a lot of and actually have several active cases involving this right now, and that is the idea of parental alienation and pathological enmeshment. So in addition to the information that I put on the Psych With Mike page on Facebook, so at Psych With Mike, and also on Twitter at Psych With Mike. In addition to the information I put up on transgender, I put up some information on parental alienation. So I put up a link to a paper that was submitted for publication and did eventually get published, but the published paper was pay only, so I couldn't get a copy of that, but I was able to get a copy of the manuscript. And that paper specifically lays out a lot of the foundational understanding for parental alienation. And then I also put up something about the definition of enmeshment. I put up an article from lawyer.com that acknowledges that parental alienation is actually a thing that is recognized both by attorneys and by the courts. And then I put up another article on a specific psychological disorder that we're going to talk about that makes, for me, makes this thing all click. So one of the things that is sometimes frustrating, and let me go back and start a different way. Sometimes people can't live together, and it's unfortunate, but it is the truth. And so we have a recourse for that. People can get married, they can get divorced. People who aren't married can break up and still have children. And when those individuals separate, a lot of times there is some negative things said on the part of one partner about the other partner in front of the kids. Any attorney will tell you, don't do that. That isn't good because it can be used against you in a court. So when it is benign, it is called, or is low grade, it's called parental alienation. And if that can be proven in court, that can be held against one of the partners. In very extreme cases, parental alienation goes to a whole different level, and we're going to talk more about that as we go along. But the first thing is I wanted to just talk a little bit about what parental alienation is, why it isn't a good thing, and why it can be used as a negative mark against one of the partners in a court. So kids use their parents as touchstones to be able to help them understand how to regulate their own emotions and how to develop good, healthy, attached relationships with other people, specifically with their primary caregivers, so their parents, with their peers as they grow up, and eventually with their significant other and subsequently their own children. So in this attachment theory, we are engaging with our children and we are training them to have good emotional regulation, and we're also training them how to be able to feel good about themselves and subsequently then love other people and be in connected relationships. When the couple gets divorced and one of the parents starts saying negative things about the other parent, then that has the effect of either making the children feel bad about the parent who is saying negative things, or feel bad about the parent that negative things are being said about. And that changes the attachment dynamic between that child and at least the other parent, but more likely changes the dynamic of the child's ability to feel healthily attached to anyone. So the basic reason why parental alienation is a bad idea is because it's bad for the kids. So parents should be able to recognize that they are the adults and that they may need to tolerate their own emotional discomfort associated with the dissolution of the marriage without bringing the kids into it. One of the things that I tell my clients all the time is that in my rule book, the person who is chronologically older is always responsible for being more emotionally mature unless there's a legitimate biological reason why they can't be. So if you're a parent and you are getting a divorce, it is your job to not take that information and use it as a negative, blunt weapon against the partner that you are divorcing. But a lot of parents do. And sometimes that even happens unconsciously. So parents will oftentimes say things to their children that they may not necessarily be aware of being negative, like, oh, well, you know, your father, he's just irresponsible. He's always been that way. Well, the child has to not only interact with the mother, but also has to interact with the father. If the child now believes that the father is irresponsible and has always been that way, then when the child goes over to the father's house, then they may not now feel as safe or secure as they once did, because the mother has now planted that seed of doubt in the child's mind. So just offhanded comments that are negative can be very detrimental to the child, even when you as the parent don't always recognize that. So it's imperative that parents understand the impact of the messages that they send to their children and make sure that those messages are not negative. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go out of your way to be overly positive. I would prefer, when I work with my clients, that they say positive things about the other parent, because we're talking about the emotional well-being of the children. But if you can't bring yourself to do that, at least neutral things, things that are not negative. So there's a couple of ways in which this parental alienation actually starts to evolve and looks like when it is applied or used as a weapon with the children against the other partner. So these things all end up having to do with what's called role corruption and boundary violations. So when we're thinking about role corruption and boundary violations, think about this. In a family, so a family is a system, and one of the persons who talks about systems theory a lot is Salvador Minuchin. You can look his name up, Minuchin, Minuchin. And basically, this idea of system theory says that every family is a system, and every system has a structure. And in that structure, the parents play a role and the children play a role. And when those roles are corrupted or there are violations of the boundaries between those roles, the individuals who are supposed to be in those roles now don't know what they're supposed to do, and that causes them to feel very, very insecure. So in systems theory, we talk about boundary violations and role corruption, and that can take a couple of different, can manifest itself in a couple of different ways in parental alienation. So one of the ways in which that can look is called parentalification. And that is a form of role corruption that is a boundary violation where one of the parents now elevates the child to the role of an adult. And so the adult now uses the child as a primary caregiver, either for themselves or for other children who may be in the family. And this is actually something that happens pretty frequently. I've heard about it multiple times, whether or not in a divorce situation or not. One of the parents actually suffers a mental disorder themselves, or at some point in their lives just has a breakdown and can't care for themselves. And the child ends up being the individual who has to carry the load and has to also then take care of not only potentially the parent, but also take care of other siblings in the house. And that's a specific form of role corruption and boundary violation that makes the child now not know what their place in the world is. They don't get to be a child and develop naturally because they are being elevated to this new responsibility role that they may take on because they may feel that they have to, but is actually developmentally very bad for them. Okay, we're going to run to our second break. We're going to pick more of this up on the other side, so join us on the other side. We're going to continue talking about parental alienation. Be right back.
Talk lines are open now, 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. Follow Mike on Twitter at Psych With Mike.
Just an illusion caused by the world spinning round.
Traffic reports at your fingertips. Real-time traffic online. Log on to 971talk.com for real-time traffic updates.
Brought to you by Frank Lita Acura with 0.9% financing going on now. Can't beat a Lita. Online at litaacura.com.
Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram buyers. Royal Gate Ellisville is out to crush the competition because we are the driving force. With summer clearance event deals on new cars nobody else will even or ever offer. Unheard of trade-in money, regardless of your trade's condition or how much you still owe on it. And credit approval that makes all the deals work because it's guaranteed. Now's the time to buy. Shop RoyalGateCars.com and see for yourself why we're #1 for all the right reasons. Jeep and Ram, our inventory, expertise, price, and satisfaction stand alone. Chrysler and Dodge, we can't be beat. You'll always get the best every day, every time. Come shop Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Manchester Road in Ellisville, or online at RoyalGateCars.com and experience why we're #1 for all the right reasons.
Royal Gate, the driving force.
With approved credit, negative equity added to new contract, minimum reported income of $1,500 per month.
Visit Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram online at RoyalGateCars.com or stop into one of their 2 locations in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych With Mike and get the Royal package at no charge.
Well, the Martins came over, we were having spaghetti when we suddenly noticed that we started getting sweaty. So we grabbed the keys and we ate it in the van. That's what my friend said, call Jerry Kelly, man, JerryKelly.com. Give him a call even though it's late, JerryKelly.com. Cause Jerry Kelly's always open up until 8. They're certified technicians, I've been told. Will help you when it's hot and help you when it's cold.
Call Jerry Kelly at 636-92-KELLY or visit us online for money-saving offers at
JerryKelly.com.
Hi, this is Curtis Stone. Now, I've cooked a lot of food in my day. Steaks, salads, pasta, seafood, chicken, soup, sandwiches. I mean, you name it, and I've prepared it thousands of times. But even I can't cook enough to feed all of the 17 million kids in America struggling with hunger. That's 1 out of every 5 children. Now, luckily, there's more than enough healthy, nutritious food produced right here in America to feed every last one of those hungry kids. The only problem is getting it to them. That's where the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks comes in. They gather up surplus food to give hope to hungry kids and their families all across the country. We call them food angels, and you can be a food angel too. Come on, earn your wings by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
The Mark Cox Show.
Monday on The Mark Cox Show, Mark is back. He'll talk about his camping trip with the kids and Guns N' Roses.
Now weekdays noon to 3 on FM News Talk 97.1.
Talk lines are open now, 314-969-9797 or toll free 866-455-9797. Now, more Psych with Mike on FM NewsTalk 97.1.
Welcome back into the Royal Gate Dodge Studios. So we were just talking about Guns N' Roses. Sounds like that was a good time. I was telling intrepid producer Frank that my brother actually was there back in '91 when the riot happened and got out alive. So
quite a different group of people walking out of the Dome the other night with smiles on their faces compared to the folks that walked out of Riverport 26 years ago.
They actually finished the show, which is good. So
it was a really good feeling for the first time in a long time walking out of that Dome with all the people smiling.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. So before the break, we were talking about parental alienation. The first aspect of that was parentification, and that's when the child is elevated to the role of a caregiver for one of the adults in the dissolving relationship. The next way in which that manifests itself is called adultification, and that's when the child is elevated to the role of peer or confidant, and in some cases even equal to partner of one of the adults. And this oftentimes manifests itself even when the adult is not consciously aware of it. So it isn't that they are intending to replace their partner with the child, but it just starts to happen because they need somebody to talk to. They start to talk to the parent, to the child. They start to slowly give the child more and more adult-like information until eventually they are confiding in the child as if the child were a peer or a confidant. Now, the problem with this is that I have people who come into my office all the time, and what they say to me is that I want to be my child's best friend. Now, I am sorry, but if that is your belief as a parent, then that is a horrible idea because you are not your child's friend. That's not your role in their lives, and you can't even be their friend, and this is why. Because people are only friends with individuals who are about as emotionally mature as they are. So you think about it in your life. You don't like to hang around people that you find to be emotionally immature, and people who are more emotionally mature than you don't like hanging around with you if you are significantly less emotionally mature than they are. So people are attracted to and go into friendships with people who are about as emotionally mature as they are. So if you're telling me that you want to be your child's friend, that means either you think that you are about the emotional equivalent of your child, or that your child is the emotional equivalent of you. Neither one of those things should be true, and if they are true, that's a problem. So it isn't our job to be our children's friend. And when we start to engage them as if they were confidants, that is actually a problem in their healthy emotional development. And then the third way that can manifest itself, parental alienation, is called infantilization. And that is a situation where one of the parents needs to be needed so badly that they actually inhibit the child's progress and growth so that they can continue to take care of the child. And all three of those things I have seen happen. All three of those things are developmentally very, very difficult and bad for the child. And all three of those things lead to real inhibition of the child's natural developmental process. And that's why they are considered to be bad. And if they can be identified in a court or in a situation by an attorney or another healthcare professional, they can be used against one of the partners in a court proceeding. So Vicki wants to talk a little bit about this tonight. So let's get Vicki on the line. Hello, Vicki.
Hi, Dr. Mahon. I have a quick question, or actually a comment. I'm sorry. People that are in the midst of a difficult separation or divorce that have children and it turns into a parental alienation situation, I kind of want to take a different stance. You're talking about the child, and that is very valuable. And maybe this is a different topic for a different day, but I'd like to talk about the parent that's been alienated. And two people are going through a very difficult, chaotic situation. And the person that's been alienated has been pushed almost over the cliff to where they're hopeless and helpless. And what happens to that person who then has nowhere to go because their future is uncertain, because everything they've lived for their children is being taken away by this, I don't want to say monster, but the person that's manipulating the children? How do you address that parent?
Right. Actually, that's a great question. So thank you for your call, Vicki, and I appreciate it. That actually is a very, very good question. And while most of what I was focused on tonight, or have been focused on, am focused on tonight, is having to do with the child, that doesn't mean that those are the only victims in a situation like this. The parent, the alienated parent, is a victim as well. And I have seen this play out, as I've said, multiple times over the course of my career. And the parent who is the victim of this syndrome is oftentimes left in a position where they don't have any really good options. And while I sympathize with that parent, what I would say is that the parent has to recognize that it's their job to be the example for the child, and that even though it is difficult for them, good parental role modeling may not pay dividends until the child is older. So even in a good situation, I feel like I was a very good parent. My children are both adults now. When they were adolescents, there were difficult times. And I have not seen, or did not see, a lot of the fruits of my labor as a parent, even in that good situation, until they were adults. Now they come back to me and they say, "Oh, you were such a great parent and we really appreciate it." But at the time, when they were in their middle teens, they weren't saying those things. So as with any situation in this parental alienation situation, a lot of times as a parent, you may feel despondent, and it may be your responsibility to get through that anyway and be a consistent, constant example, good example to your children, because they need to see that for their own development, even though the payoff for that may not be until many years down the road. Now, as the individual who is going through that, the adult who's going through that, what I would say is you've got to do whatever you can to try and take care of yourself. Get yourself some good therapy. Make sure that you're doing lots of good self-care. Make sure that you are plugged into a good support network. All of those things are very, very important, but it can be extremely difficult. I have seen this, and I understand how devastating that it can be. I can't say enough. It is just a really negative situation that has no good answers. And one of the reasons why it has no good answer is because even though this is recognized by the court system as something that is not a good thing and can be used as a negative against the partner who is engaged in the process of alienating one of the parents, the courts, what the courts say is that there is no psychological diagnosis. And so if you have parental alienation going on, the court says, well, there's no psychological diagnosis, so there's, unless it becomes really, really egregious, there's very little that we can do. Now, I'm going to say some things, and if you're an attorney listening to this, I don't mean to be disrespectful, certainly don't mean to be disrespectful, but just like I don't want, I'm not going to tell anybody to call me and have me file papers for their divorce. I don't want attorneys giving people psychological advice. The idea that there is no psychological diagnosis associated with parental alienation is absolutely false. There is a psychological diagnosis. It's called Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and it is a factitious disease factitious meaning that it is imposed by the individual on the self. So Munchausen's disorder means that it's a form of personality disorder called a conversion disorder or a factitious disorder, meaning that the individual imposes it on themselves. So in Munchausen's disorder, the individual manifests very real, diagnosable, observable symptoms associated with a disease that they actually inflict upon themselves. They may be conscious of it. More likely, they are not conscious of it. And so Munchausen's by proxy means that the individual is suffering from symptoms that look like a disorder that are being projected onto them by another person. And so this is a diagnosable disorder. It does have a DSM code. It does have a DSM code in the current version of the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for the Social Sciences, the DSM-5. And this is a real thing that can be diagnosed. And so, you know, I understand that attorneys are not psychologists, and I don't want them to practice psychology. But if you are going through something like this, or you know someone who is, what I recommend is that you direct them to go and find a therapist or someone else who can advocate for them, who understands developmental psychology well enough to be able to say, hey, this is a real thing. So for me, in my practice, when we're going through this, I tell people, look, these are real things that are happening. They are real diagnoses that can be associated with this. And so if you go back to your attorney and you say, hey, you know, my therapist is saying these things, and then they identify me as a credible expert witness, then I can be deposed. I can even be put on the stand to testify about these things. And not only does that then make this very real, but it really strengthens the case of individuals who are going through this. So most attorneys will go in front of a judge and say, hey, this is a case of parental alienation. Well, that may be true, and the judge may even be sympathetic, but then they may say that, okay, it is a case of parental alienation, but there is very little that we can do about it. You bring in an expert witness who says, look, this is a diagnosable disorder, and here are all the reasons why it is real. That all of a sudden now becomes something that is much more real for the judge, much more something that is tangible, and it really, really strengthens that individual's case. So this is a real thing. If you know anybody who is going through it, or you're going through it, you know, please share this show with somebody that you might know who is having this issue play out in their life. You can podcast the show from my website, michaelmahon.org. That's also a place where you can get me. You can send me messages there, contact me if you have anything you want us to cover on the show, or you have any questions. Also, you can get on the website or on the Facebook page at Psych With Mike, or Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Psych With Mike. I'm always trying to put up information so that people know where I'm coming from and what the information is that I'm using to base my presentations on. So get us on the website, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, like the Facebook page, and also podcast the show. So michaelmahon.org is where you can go to podcast the show. You can also podcast the show, 97.1talk.com shows Psych with Mike. So if it's Saturday night and it is 8 p.m., it is Psych with Mike. See you next week.
Dodge, Chrysler. Chrysler Jeep Ram buyers. Royal Gate Columbia is out to crush the competition because we are the driving force. With summer clearance event deals on new cars nobody else will even or ever offer. Unheard of trade-in money, regardless of your trade's condition or how much you still owe on it. And credit approval that makes all the deals work because it's guaranteed. Now's the time to buy. Shop RoyalGateCars.com and see for yourself why we're #1 for all the right reasons. Jeep and Ram, our inventory, expertise, price, and satisfaction stand alone. Chrysler and Dodge, we can't be beat. You'll always get the best every day, every time. Come shop Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, 500 Admiral Wino Boulevard in Columbia, or online at RoyalGateCars.com and experience why we're #1 for all the right reasons.
Royal Gate, the driving force.
With approved credit, negative equity added to new contract, minimum reported income of $1,500 per month.
Visit Royal Gate Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram online at RoyalGateCars.com or stop into one of their 2 locations in Ellisville or Columbia, Illinois. Mention Psych with Mike and get the Royal package at no charge.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I'm 19 years old, and this is how I live united. I've always been kind of a computer geek, and I found a way to use those skills to help the homeless in my community. For people facing hard times, computer skills and a basic resume are so important. It may seem like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference in people's lives. So with United Way, I created a program where I work with the homeless. Together, we go through their whole job history, write a resume, and then save it on their very own USB drive. We provide workbooks and training certificates.